What's up, awesome people? It is time for the Dr. Cole Live. Sometimes it gets crazy. Sometimes we have some, I shouldn't say sometimes, we always have some fun, but it's time to get down and dirty with any topic you want about being world class in cyber, right? That is what it's all about. We can talk about being a CISO. We can talk about security engineer. We can talk about transition. We can talk about health. We can talk about mindset. I am at your disposal, my friends. So let's open up the lines for some Q&A. I guess everyone's a little shy this morning. Normally when I get in here, there's a lot of questions popping in. There we go. There we go. Kevin, I was starting to think I was all alone today, but my man Kevin is with me. Hey, what's up? What's up? What's up? So always like doing some check-in as we're waiting for a few questions to pop in, but couple of weeks left in quarter one. So question, have you met and accomplished all your targets for Q1 2023? Whether you have or you haven't, here's the real question. What is something you can do over the next 2 weeks that would make this the best quarter you've ever had? And I always love asking those crazy questions of pushing the envelope a little, because here's the reality. You can do a lot in 15 days, right? It's actually probably even more like 16 or 17 days, right? Because we're March 14th sitting here today. That's a lot of time. That's a lot of energy. Now, here's the reality. If you don't use it correctly and you don't prioritize, it could fly by like the last 2 months. And the next 2 weeks could be like every other week. We're doing the same old, same old. Well, I don't know about you. Sometimes you feel like you're in Groundhog Day, where you're doing the same thing every day over and over and over again. Or sitting here right now, you can do one of the most powerful things that you as a human have the ability to do, and that is make a new decision. You can decide that these next 2 weeks are going to be different. You can decide that these next 2 weeks, your number one priority is going to be X. What is that? What is that? So just spend a little time now, this afternoon, this evening, on what is one thing that maybe you've been putting off. Maybe you felt it was selfish to do. Maybe you didn't think other people would think it was important. Who cares about all that? What is one thing that if you did would make this month, this quarter, the best quarter you've ever had? All right, pretty cool stuff here. Pretty cool stuff. So we got some questions coming in. What are your thoughts on the new national cybersecurity strategy from the Biden administration? It's about time, right? It's about time. What are we waiting for? What are we waiting for there to finally have sort of a national strategy? My biggest issue is, and it's just an unfortunate reality of Washington these days, of why do we have to make cyber political, right? Cyber isn't political. Cyber is bipartisan. Cyber is protecting the nation. Cyber is protecting our citizens, but we're still fighting over whether you're left, right, really middle, center, or whatever it is, and they're still making it way too political. We need to get this taken care of. I'm glad that they're doing some work. So the positives is, yes, we're starting to put together some cybersecurity strategies and those things. The issue is there are these broad strokes that are not really focused on the root cause problem. What I would really like to see is, I know we're talking about TikTok and banning TikTok in the United States and all that stuff, but here's the real question for you. The problem isn't TikTok. The problem, my friends, is free applications. That's the issue. The reason why TikTok is so dangerous, it's not because it's made by the Chinese. It's not because it captures or monitors data. The reason why TikTok is so dangerous is because in order to use it, because it's free, you have to allow it to access your location, your camera, your microphone, your pictures, and your data. And that's the reality of all free apps that are out there. They're taking your information, your privacy, and your data and exchanging it for the use of the app. Now, if you look at what your information is worth versus what that app is worth, they're getting a really good deal. Your data could be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, and that app's probably worth $8. Charge me $8. Charge me $7, but don't allow them to use the data. So to me, the most important thing that Congress or the White House or anyone could do right now is pass regulation to protect our data on apps and social media. And the easiest, simplest way is you can't exchange user data for the use. Free is no longer allowed. Free is a violation of our privacy. Free is meaning that they can take, utilize, and track us anywhere, anyplace, anytime. And to me, that's totally and completely unacceptable. So let's get rid of free. Free is the problem. If TikTok wasn't free and you paid $7.99 and they didn't have your location and they didn't have your data and they couldn't access your mic and they couldn't access your camera and they couldn't access all of your pictures, the problem with TikTok gets reduced greatly. So it's one of those where I just laugh. We like to focus on the symptom instead of fix the root cause problem. Like I have a friend of mine that always has headaches, always taking aspirin. And I'm like, dude, your body's telling you you're deficient. How much water do you drink? He's like, oh, I drink 5 or 6 cans. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, I drink 5 or 6 cans of Diet Coke. I'm like, okay, that's not water. So you're drinking no water. He's like, no, that's 12 ounces of liquid. I'm like, no, liquid filled with caffeine and artificial ingredients is a negative. It actually dehydrates you even more. I said, cut that out and drink 100 ounces of water a day. And guess what? He doesn't have headaches anymore. Root cause versus symptom. We love to pop painkillers. We as a society love our painkillers, love our aspirin, love our ibuprofen, love our Motrin, whatever, Aleve, right? But the point is, if you're in pain, there's a root cause. Root cause we need to fix, and that's the free part, which hasn't been addressed in the cyber strategies. That's my concern is, yeah, it's checking some boxes and broad strokes of the brush, which is okay, but nobody wants to deal with the real problems or the real issues. So then we get to Zach. Our full resume is dead. Should we stick to a one-page marketing promotional or given everything relevant? So it really depends on the job you're looking for. But the one thing I will say is a resume or a CV serves one purpose and purpose only: to get you an interview. Nobody is ever going to hire you based on your resume. Nobody's ever going to offer you $1 million salary based on your resume. They're going to talk to you. They're going to check your references. They're going to have you sit in meetings, test you, verify, validate you. The only purpose of that CV is to get the interview. So if you are well connected, if you know the right people and you have the right connections and they're going to recommend you, and a company is looking for a CISO or a security engineer, and people like, oh, you got to talk to that Zach dude, he's awesome, then yeah, you don't need a resume. So if you have a very strong network and you're socializing and you're putting out content on social media and you're well known and you have a reputation in the industry and people are looking for you, then yes, I would say that it's not needed. Most people are not there. So you do still need a resume or a CV to prove that you are worth it to have an interview. Let me let you in on one of the biggest secrets. I work with a lot of recruiters. I work with HR. I work with a lot of companies. When people review a resume, they're not looking for reasons to interview. They're looking for reasons to exclude you. So for example, if you're applying for a CISO job and we go to your resume and it's talking techie, routers, switches, firewalls, man, they're going to exclude you. This is a technical person pretending to be a CISO. We've been there. We've tried that. It doesn't work. We don't want them. So the trick is not to include everything in the kitchen sink. The trick is to remove anything that could be misleading, that could exclude you, that could get you. For example, even if you're working on the side or you have a side business or you're doing a side hustle, don't put it on the CV. Don't put it on your resume, because as a potential hirer, I'm like, they have a side job. They're not going to be dedicated to me. They have distractions. They're not focused 100% on me. I don't want them. So you want to be very careful and strategic of creating a solid resume or CV that shows you are qualified, that you are a good candidate, and does not give them any reason to exclude you. For most folks, it's about a 2-page resume. I'd stay away from the 8 or 10 page. I'd stay away from a 1-pager. You're just not going to be able to get enough in there. I mean, you just look at putting in your name, your details, a picture, your basic education. I mean, right there's a quarter, which doesn't leave a whole lot for experience. So you do want to play up the experience factors, that you're world-class security engineer or CISO or whatever the job you're going after. But it's all about focusing in on what you do. So I would definitely say full resume dead, but I would say 2-page. 1 page, like I said, for most senior level jobs, if you don't have any experience, entry level maybe, but most senior level jobs, you're going to need at least 1.5 to 2 pages to get that information out there. You could do it in a page. That's awesome. I'd love to take a look and see what you're doing there. But I would say most cases for senior level CISO jobs and things like that, you're probably talking a good 1.5 to 2 pages in terms of that resume. So Corey is in the house. Great to hear your wisdom again, Dr. Cole. Are you still a proponent of application whitelisting? Yes. I mean, it's to me sort of one of those great solutions that people just don't want to use because they don't want to make the tough decisions. Right? Application whitelisting is great because think about it. You only run authorized executables. Nothing else runs. So now, if somebody sends you something malicious, an attachment, an embedded link, or something that you're not supposed to, and you try to run it on your computer, it won't allow it. It will stop it from running the system. But a lot of companies don't like it because they say it interferes with employees, stops people from effectively doing their jobs. Think about this for a moment. What type of environment are you running that you need rogue, unfettered access? Right? It makes me wonder there when you go, Eric, we can't limit and control executables. You're saying, I have no freaking clue what's running on our system. Right? This is the problems. We don't want to go back and fix the fundamentals. You should have a list of executables that are allowed to run on your system. You should be able to have authorized cryptographic hashes of them. You should be able to control and manage what does and doesn't run on your system. Right? This isn't rocket science, but we make it so much harder, especially now with ChatGDP. When you look at what it's capable of doing, I remember when the I Love You virus came out. Now, many of us remember it. It was obviously a virus. If you get an email with a subject line from a coworker that says, I love you, I mean, seriously, unless you work in a screwed up organization, that is not legit. But guess what? People clicked on it. And I kept saying, what happens when the emails look real? And we've gotten close to that, where the emails look legit. You know what the problem with ChatGDP is? The phishing emails will be legit because they're harvesting real emails. There won't be any difference. So we have to recognize that the time and day of letting users have attachments and embedded links and run whatever they want on their system, unless you want to be that organization that pays ransoms all the time and pays extortions all the time, that has to stop. With ChatGDP, that game is no longer going to work. So you can block attachments, you can block embedded links, or you can use application whitelisting. But the point is, we have to start making the real decisions, because these phishing attacks and emails are getting worse, worse, and worse. And we have to start taking proactive action to minimize, prevent, and stop them from causing harm. Oh, it's funny, and I didn't even see that, but Kevin's next question is, what are your thoughts about ChatGDP and the scope of cyber? I'm currently drafting a policy to address it in my company. It is serious. Yes, it's. I'll be honest with you. I've heard about ChatGDP, and I'm like, whatever. It can't be that good. Come on, man. And at one of my sessions where I have coaches too. I coach, but I also have coaches, and everyone needs a coach. And in California, at my coach's house, and we're going through stuff. He's like, Eric, you have to see this, because I was struggling with copy and I was writing copy. So he pulls up ChatGDP and he types in, write 6 pieces of copy for Instagram, social media, for people that are interested in becoming a chief information security officer. And I'm like, whatever. And he hits it, and I'm like, that's really good. That's actually much, much better. So he started playing around with it. Write emails where the user has 100% chance of clicking the link, right? And you got to be a little careful, because the ChatGDP has the ethics and morals. Like, he went in, I was cracking up, because he went in, he was like, what can I do on date night to seduce my wife? Right? Which that is technically legit, right? It's his wife. He wants to make her feel special. Well, it came back going, that's an inappropriate search, right? You can't, you cannot use our tool to seduce people. Like, but it's my wife, right? But they said, no, no, no. So you got to be a little careful, because if you like phishing or attacking, things like that, ChatGDP will sort of scold you for it. But if you carefully say, send me an email that has a 100% chance of people opening it or things along those lines, now all of a sudden it's going to run the search for you, and it's going to be really, really good. So as I said, before ChatGDP, you could do phishing and other attacks that looked similar to real emails. But because ChatGDP is harvesting real emails, it's using real emails, it's being trained on real emails, guess what? Your phishing attacks are now real emails. They are essentially identical. They are the same. Good luck with that, right? So, yeah, to me, ChatGDP changes everything, because now you're finding ways to be able to create really good copy and information that can be used for good, or it can be used for evil purposes. So you definitely something to keep an eye on, and sort of scratch your head going, this is going to be a wild ride, my friends, a wild ride. So if you could change or add something to what universities are teaching cybersec students, what would it be? Always seems like universities are behind the curve. To me, the number one thing I would add is how, as a technical person, do you communicate with non-technical people? That would be the first one, because most techies, most geeks speak geek. They're very confident. They're very smart. They tend to be introverts. They tend not to have a lot of patience for stupid people. And to them, people that don't understand what they're saying falls into that category. So they tend to get themselves in a lot of trouble. And I did early in my career. That's why I invested so much time on the communication front, where I would talk with managers and directors and high-level folks, and they didn't understand or get what I was saying. And I was just like, okay, whatever. And it hurt me, because if you can't communicate and you can't speak the language, yes, you can get frustrated. They're going to get frustrated. No one's going to invite you to the meetings. So that would be the first one that I would really put in there, which is a softer one. And then the second thing, which is even softer, is mindset needed to be a world-class security engineer. A lot of colleges today, by the way, the curriculums are pretty good. I mean, you got your course. I mean, when you're looking at cybersecurity, I mean, at this point, the core curriculum is pretty straightforward, right? Prevention, detection, monitoring, right? Firewalls, IDSs. I mean, it's all pretty much the same. Different folks slice and dice it differently, but I mean, the core data and information is really there. The problem is, and this is what we're solving directly, is we do communication, but with our programs, we also cover the mindset piece. If you walk out of college and you're like, nobody gets me, nobody understands me, I'm a weird, I'm an introvert, nobody invites me to meetings, blah, blah, that's going to hurt you. That's going to limit your success. So it's almost a mindset with the communication piece of having technical people walk out going, yeah, I'm going to sit at the executive table. I'm going to sit at the adult table. I'm going to play with the big boys and girls, right? And teach those skills. That's the problem that we have today, is it's not the technical knowledge. There's many places that do well with the technical knowledge. I did that, many of you know, for previous organization. I did that for a long time, teaching the technical knowledge. And the reason I left is because that's not what's needed. We need to go and teach how to actually utilize it, interact with it, socialize it, and make it effective in the marketplace. What would you recommend an experienced consultant do to transition to 1099 work with more than one firm? Let people know. I mean, it's really that simple. If you're an experienced consultant, you know a lot of people. You have a really good reputation. A lot of people respect what you do. Make them aware that you're available. This is the one that I always joke with folks, where a lot of people come with me and you can pay me to coach you and we'll have a lot of fun and I'll do a lot of cool stuff with you. But they're like, Eric, I want to become a consultant, but I can't find any work. And I'm like, great. List 10 companies you would like to work for. Great. List 10 people that you know that work for that company or know people that work for that company. Awesome. When was the last time you contacted them? They're like, I didn't. You're sitting on a gold mine, my friend. If you're experienced, you're sitting on a gold mine. Let people know you're available. Let people know that you are now doing 1099 and you're taking on, create scarcity. I'm taking on 5 clients, only 5. There's only 2 slots left. Would you like one of them? Well, once those 5 slots are gone, they're gone. I'm not taking on unlimited clients. We're only taking on a certain number of clients, and this is what we're doing here. So make people aware. Next, and this is probably equally, if not more important in terms of order. What service are you offering? Make it very clear on the service, the offering, the requirements. Create a one-page marketing slick, is what we call them, that lays out the service in detail. Because the other problem is, if you're doing all things to all people, nobody's going to hire you. So make it very clear. What is your specific offering? And then make sure it's aligned. What is the pain point that you're meeting? What makes you unique or different? And why do you solve that problem better than anybody else? That's all sales is. People buy for one of 2 reasons. Either pain or pleasure. They're either going to buy something to minimize pain or maximize pleasure. Now, if you've been to Vegas or Miami, you know that maximizing pleasure tends to be a big driver. I mean, entertainment industry monopolizes on that. So that's always a better driver, but cyber is sometimes hard to make pleasurable. Right? You can by making it a business enabler, but it's really more of a pain play. So what is a current pain that customers have? How do you solve it better and different? And why should they buy from you today? The urgency. Why is this something they must do today? And why is your solution the best value from a price factor? You put that together, you reach out to people you know, you're golden. It's just a lot of times, no one's ever taught us the business fundamentals or the business pieces that are needed or required. But that's really all it is get clear about what you're offering, make sure it solves a real problem, and make sure you articulate why you do it better than anybody else. And then start letting people know that you're available and it's out there. People are worrying about the check engine light and not exactly. Yeah, I think that was from my earlier comment, Kevin. Great on. Yep, exactly. People are. It's always about them and not the root cause problem. So next question: do you ever think we will have a federal privacy standard in the U.S.? Yes. I mean, it's actually in the works right now. I think it's something that probably will be passed this year, right? So we definitely will. Now, will it be good? Will it be effective? The problem that you have to remember with standards and policies and compliance and all that stuff is the only thing that matters is enforcement and whether companies are afraid enough to actually follow it. Right? That's why you have all these standards and all these regulations out there that nobody follows because there's no enforcement. Or you get a smack on your hand. I mean, this was the whole problem with PCI. We played in that space for a while, but it was this issue. We go into a company and say, hey, you're not compliant. And they say, we know. And I go, and we can make you compliant. And they're like, we know. And I'm like, and it's going to cost $400K to make you compliant. We know. And then they look at me and go, and you know what you don't know? If we're not compliant, it's $20K a year in fines. So we could go 20 years and still save money. So why would we hire you? Right? It's an unfortunate reality, but companies are in line to make money. And if becoming compliant is more expensive than paying the fines, they're going to pay the fines, right? So the real question is not whether or not we're going to have a privacy standard, because we will. It's who's going to enforce it, and is it going to be enforced consistently enough that people actually want to follow it? So I recently got my U.S. cert, and it's insane how many states have their own requirements. Now GDPR seems more straightforward. Yeah, it's really, and that's the problem in the U.S. is every state has their own regulation, but essentially the U.S. federal policy is California. California just came out with a new privacy law. California is the strictest. California, it's interesting. California doesn't have an enforcement agency, but they've green light all the judges to prosecute those cases. So what they did that was brilliant is they basically let the attorneys become their enforcement arm. Because now people that are not following the California policy, which it doesn't matter where your business is, it's do you have any citizens in California? Probability of you running a business that has California citizens is pretty high. So it works. And then you have attorneys that basically anybody that violates the California privacy policies files lawsuits against those companies, and they get prosecuted with a high level of frequency in California. They get prioritized. Brilliant. I mean, so California took an interesting twist with like, yeah, we're going to do enforcement through private sector attorneys, and it's actually worked out really, really well. So for the most part, it's sort of California is the U.S. federal privacy standard, right? Until the country actually gets one, but California so far has been doing a pretty good job on that front. All right, so hey, Eric, do you believe a cybersecurity manager can progress right into a CISO role, or should they go for the head of cybersecurity type of role first to get some experience? Go for it, my friend. Now, it depends on size of organization and things like that, but you have to remember is there are more CISO positions than qualified CISOs. Companies want somebody for their CISO, and most of the time they realize and recognize that it's going to be a first timer, because somebody who's been a CISO before fits under one or two categories. They're either really, really good and everybody wants them, and they know that unless they're really big and going to throw a ton of money, they're not going to get them. So they know the really, really good CISOs are good luck. There's bidding wars, and those folks are recruited left and right. So getting that person is going to be really, really hard. The second category of people who have a CISO title are folks that move around every 9 to 12 months because they have no business being a CISO. They're a security engineer that's playing the role of a CISO. They're pretending, and they're awful. World-class security engineers do not make world-class CISOs. Guess what? They don't want that person either, because they know that a security engineer with a CISO title is a train wreck. They've seen it, they've heard it, they've been there, they've done it. So the reality is most companies have recognized, okay, because of those two categories, the probability of us getting somebody who's been a CISO before ain't going to happen. So we need somebody who understands strategy. We don't want a security engineer because they don't understand strategy. So we want somebody who's managed or played that role. So manager, director, any of those roles work really, really well. So if you have that knowledge and that experience and you want to be a CISO, go for it. Biggest thing, don't let one no derail your train. I always coach folks and they're like, Eric, no one's going to hire me. I'm like, how do you know? They're like, well, I applied to 2 jobs and neither one hired me. I'm like, that's 2, not everyone. So don't tell me no one until you apply to every single company on planet Earth. 2 is a small data set. Try 1,000. Try 2,000. Try 5,000. And then let's talk. Because remember, you only need one yes. You only need one company to say yes. So go for it. If that's what you want to do, go for it. You don't have to take the slow road where you do the manager, the director. There's such a big need for CISO. Go for it. Even go for a slightly smaller company. Get the experience. Become one of those world-class gurus that everybody wants. And then you crank it up. You crank it up, my friend. Question. If I were to create my own business in cybersecurity, and let's say I'm running the show mostly myself, would it be worth it or necessary to have CISO skills? It depends on your business. If your business is presenting to executives, interfacing with executives, doing executive awareness, doing strategic development, building out BCPs, DRPs that are more strategic based, yeah, absolutely. But if you're doing more technical, where you're doing network architecture analysis, or you're doing cloud security migration or pen testing or technical things where you're really going to be working with the security engineers and the security team and really have minimal to no interface or interaction, you really don't. You really don't need that skill set. So it really just depends on the business you're targeting or going after on whether you need that skill set or not. All right. So then we have Go for your dreams. I love it. Thanks. And okay. Awesome. Awesome. So I believe we've gone through all our questions and we are about at the end of our time. So as always, I hope we kept it real. I hope you had fun. I hope you got great information. And let's see you next week, my friend. And do me a favor. If you're finding this valuable, invite some friends. Let's have a party. Let's bring in some more people. So thanks for being awesome. And I'll see you next week. Talk to you soon. And thank you so much.